What we have here is a Schroth harness removed from a off-road buggy competing at Mildura. The buggy turned over, and when the occupants tried to release themselves, the co-driver wasn't able to do so, and as a result they had to be cut out. As you can see, the belts have been cut. The reason being is that the release mechanism is not working. It feels somewhat gritty, but you can turn the thing to the full amount and you can pull on these and they will not release, and when you turn it full the other way it still stubbornly refuses to release. As you can see, the buckle does not return to the centre, it remains off to one side. So there is a fault in the mechanism. The belt is in date, it's only about 12 months old, and I'm going to open it up to try and establish what exactly has gone wrong with the belt, so that we can learn from that. There doesn't appear to be a huge amount of dust inside there. There is some, but not a huge amount. Alright, the buckle at the back is held in with 5 cap screws. These are 3mm cap screws, so we're just going to release the back of those as carefully as we can using this ratchet. They're coming undone reasonably easy. There does feel like there is some sort of chemical locking agent on there. Yes, there is a chemical locking agent. You can see what appears to be a blue locking agent on there. So we'll set that aside and we'll remove the remainder. They are not hugely tight, but you have to apply a reasonable force to undo them, consistent with the size of the thread. So it's what looks like a 4mm metric thread. This one down here is marked, so clearly that is an indication to the manufacturer that the buckle has been tampered with. So you can see as when we make a mark on this one, it's going to be very difficult to push in without damaging the paint mark. So having now done that, the manufacturer can tell that the buckle has been opened. I presume it's manufacturer applied paint, which would also indicate that this device hasn't been previously opened, if that is in case, because the paint was intact prior to opening up the device. Now, when we release the last one, it will allow the buckle to move apart. So I'm just going to hold this in place while I remove the last cap screw. Okay, so there is some pre-loading on this. I can feel a spring loading on it. So we'll put him down onto the bench and we'll very carefully allow this to lift up. Now there was a spring has escaped onto the right. This spring has come out from in here, so clearly hasn't been retained. Set that aside. having a look down in here now, you can see there is the releasing screws, and immediately instructive is that there is a piece of rock or gravel here. I presume you can see that piece of rock or gravel, which is just right down there. The buckle itself, there doesn't seem to be any fault with that side. This is the crutch strap, the mustache style crutch strap. The right hand side, again, apart from some dust, there appears to be no problem with that. The right shoulder strap, the left shoulder strap, still with the FIA logo. So now we have the mechanism. So in there is a ball bearing which is part of the latching mechanism, and a couple of plastic pins which are clearly part of this section down here. So we'll just turn that over, and yes, there is a fair chunk of dust and crud inside there. With the little piece of gravel there, two plastic pins, we'll pop those down here with the remainder of the assembly. The ball bearing, and our infamous piece of gravel. Now, operating the lock mechanism, it's very gritty. There is the problem. You can see that turning the handle does not operate the cam mechanism. You can see the cam mechanism there is intended to work up on those steps, and that will then pull these pins down, but the handle has become detached from the lock, and you can see inside there's a lot of dust. That dust, of course, will be grinding away on the connections and also creating an enormous amount of friction, but that is not turning. You can actually turn the handle and you can see it's trying to, but it is not actually turning the release mechanism. I'm not sure exactly how this mechanism is connected. I presume that there will be some sort of a lock in behind there, so I'll get busy and see if we can remove that. This pin locks at the bottom, and that was attached to the crutch strap, so the crutch strap was permanently attached to the bottom. The spring sits in behind there, and that went down into that hole there, so that's now come out. I'm just going to ease up this plate. It is very dusty. You can feel the grit. can see inside here more evidence of a lot of dust contamination. Now, these pins will not necessarily come out because they are designed to be behind that plate, and as that plate moves down against the spring loading, that will then cause the pins to retract and release the belt. That happens by this cam mechanism, which is supposed to ride up on top of the plate like so, and that pulls that down. However, because this is no longer connected, we've got a fairly serious issue. Right, so I'm going to try and access that. It pops off reasonably easy. And here we have a grub screw. So you can see as we turn that, you'll notice that the grub screw turns slightly, but then allows the handle to move freely. That looks like another 3mm point. So we will see there should be a keying mechanism in behind there. No, I believe it may be a 2.5. Which it is, so we will try and release that now. And you can see when we turn that, now it is working on the cam. So we go back the other way. So the grub screw is still connected to the restraint mechanism. It's the handle that has come adrift. So that part is working as it should, but the handle is no longer connected to the central cam. So we may have to find a way of holding that in order to undo this here, because it does feel like it's going to be quite tight.